or file or to the printer, but not necessarily to Excel and stuff. So they're really the hard copy reports that we're traditionally used to. Another option we have is going to be the SmartList reports, the Management Reporter reports, SQL Reporting Service, and of course we talked about Excel dashboards, and then later on we'll have the Power BI. Again, as I was saying, we're used to the native GP reports. And they're typically, like I said, people are used to them. We've had them for decades, and those are the reports that they're generated quickly, and of course we can send them to the file and to the screen, and we can work with them that way. But as we have moved on with technology, we're finding that we need to be able to use some of the data in Excel, and so we have SmartList to choose from. And so SmartList has become a tool that we need the data, not necessarily in a report format, but the data to be an ad hoc query where we can easily filter it, we can sort it, we can send it out to Excel, we can then use it in pivot tables or just sending out Excel lists and do that kind of data filtering. And that's where SmartList comes in. It is the Excel add-in, or even Word, Microsoft Word, if you wanted to send it out for a mail merge. But that's the purpose of SmartList. It's not really a report. It's a data connection for your data, easily filtered, and also the fact that you can double-click on the entries inside of SmartList and open up the GP windows and be able to work from it that way. Now, Management Report, on the other hand, is also where we're looking at doing the management reports. And those are the ones for the balance sheet, the income statement, and other cash flows. You can do detail reports. I'm going to show you in just a few minutes the detail reports. You can send out the sharing options, board quality reports, consolidated reports across the companies, and the drill down capabilities. So let me show you really about the Management Reporter. So for Management Reporter, most everybody's familiar with Management Reporter and working in here, but I want to show you some things that you may not already know. So if we look at the standard income statement trend that most people will have, we have it based upon, we can pick our period and we can pick our year, and then we're going to just do a 12-month periodic trend. We have generate, and we're going to generate this report. You'll know we have the ability to do the January through February. We can do rolling 12, so to automatically always do the 12 months back, or we can also do fixed period. So this is a typical report that most you would probably have for your 12 months that you're used to. But if we wanted to do a little bit extra, we could turn around and put it the fact that we're keeping a budget in GP. What perhaps if we had the ability to say we are running this report as of August, so we would want the first 8 months of the year to be actual numbers, but then we want to fill in the rest of the year and look at it, what would be forecasted if we met budget to the end of the year, what would that forecast look like? So in Management Reporter, we can put some conditional formatting on the columns that would provide us the ability to turn on and off the columns based upon actual budget so that we could be able to get that actual plus budget forecasting view at the end of the year. So we'll notice here is that we have our actual months, and then we would have our forecast and identified as forecast, so that we could be able to see, and then we could get a total at the end of the year. So we have the ability of doing that kind of analysis inside of Management Reporter. And just to show you what's a little bit behind the scenes here is that we are actually doing actual and forecast, and we're putting a print control so that it would turn it on and off. By choosing the print control where the period is less than equal to base is so that actual versus forecast based upon what reporting base period we choose on the report. Another thing that we can do with Management Reporter to make it that we are using it more effectively is to come in and use the transactional level details, so that when we do drill down into the report all the way to the transactional level, we would be able to see the master name, we would be able to see the document number, and we also would be able to see the distribution reference that is available for those transactional records without even having to go back into GP to see that information. So let's see what that looks like. So I've got that set, and we're going to hit generate. So if we come here and look at other employee expenses or tax expense, let's go and track as tax expense, you're only going to be able to see the attributes for a current month period, not year to date, but we could come in here and click on the line and be able to see the information that may be created by the transactions that were transpired inside the system. So we were seeing the master name and the document number. This came from payroll, so you're seeing employee information if you are posting your employee information at a detail level. And let's move this to a different year, and let me show you some for sales. So if we leave the same information on sales, we can click on sales, and then we're going to click on the grant revenue. And then from the grant revenue, we can see sales transactions, we can see the master name, and then also with the document number that generated the transaction that is arriving to our total. So again, just more information and using the Management Reporter reports more effectively. We also can use report schedules and report groups. So again, if we wanted to, if we have long reports, we could gather them together in a group and schedule them to be ran late at night, because any time that you have a previously generated report, don't forget that you can click on this little icon right here. It'll give you the time and date stamp of the last generated version, so I don't necessarily always have to hit generate. I can just open up the previous version. So it may have been generated the night before, and I can come in the morning, just click on it, and view it from there. So we talked a little bit about the fact that we can do a forecasting with budget, with actual to budget, the fact that we can drill back and see the transactional detail, and that we can see previously generated versions by having them scheduled out ahead of time, and we can save the processing time. Another report that we talk about when we talk about GP is the SQL Reporting Services Reports. Several versions ago, Microsoft started rewriting all the traditional reports that were provided inside the GP system into a SQL Reporting Service Reports. What SQL Reporting Service Reports do for you is the fact that they are available that you can take a report formatted so it looks like a report, it's nicely formatted, and we can send them out to Excel and we can send them out to PDF, and they are accessible through the web for non-GP users as long as we give them permission, Active Directory permission, so that they can access the reports. And also those non-GP users, we can set them up a subscription so the reports can be emailed to them. So for the scenario today, I want to show you is setting up an email that you could send a report to a salesperson or an aging report to a vice president, something that you may not have had previously with the native GP reports. We have that access with SQL reporting. Inside of GP, when you come into GP and I was dealing with sales reports, I would come and click on sales from the navigation list on the left. And I'm going to find my reporting service reports under reporting service reports, and it's going to show by module the reports that I have available. As I'm working with sales, I'm seeing my sales reports underneath here. And so in this instance, I may want to say I want to look at my historical age trial balance. If I'm a GP user, I can just double click on it and it would bring me up the age trial balance. The same parameters that you have on GP reports, native GP reports, you have the ability to set them on the SQL Reporting Service reports. So we have the historical aging, we have dates, we have all the similar items that you're used to. I'm going to choose a few here, and I'm going to choose View Report. And in this instance, I'm going to hide my parameters so that I can see my report when it displays on the screen. So now that I have a historical age trial balance report, and at this point I can click on the export button and I would be able to send this to a PDF or to an Excel, and it would keep the formatting, so then I could email it, save it down, email it to a recipient, or per se the auditors may have wanted this aging report at the end of the year. I can send that to them at that time. The way a non-GP user would be able to access the SQL Reporting Service reports is they would have a web address. In this instance, it's usually server name /reports. If once they get it, they can add it to their favorites. You would just click on favorites and you would come back into your page. This one's already set for the company, for the World Online, which is also the Fabricam company. Inside of GPR Test Company, and so I'm just going to come over here into sales. So we have quite a few predefined reports. Again, they're mimicking the native GP reports that Microsoft is providing to you. In the event that you need to have specialized reports created for your company, there are tools to create these SQL Reporting Services reports for you. We're going to use one of the existing ones, for instance, the receivable sales analysis, and we notice that we have these parameters. At this time, I wish to create a subscription for someone. I'm going to click on the report up here at the top, and I'm going to click on subscriptions. I already had one, but I'm going to go create a new one. So I'm just going to click on New Subscription. So I'm going to choose my method of delivery. In this instance, I have Windows File Share available, so I could publish it out to a file share. If I have email available, I would just be able to choose email and enter my email addresses that I wish the recipients to be notified of. In this instance, I'm just going to do my location. What is the format of the report that you wish? The same export paths that we had when we have the report, we can always choose those same exact form export. And most importantly, that we have the select schedule. The select schedule is very similar to the way you do your scheduling inside of Outlook or such. You're choosing a daily schedule, your time and your date. I may want to say I want this sent out at 2 a.m. in the morning when nobody is, so they'll have it first thing in the morning when they get into the office, and I can then of course set my begin and end of when I want the schedule to stop. And I'm going to hit OK. And then most importantly is that the same parameters that I would have to answer if I was running this report, normally I'm going to have to come in here and answer those same exact questions. And again, these are the ones that we use every time it used this report. So again, if somebody only needed to have by a certain salesperson ID and you want to send it to a salesperson just for their stuff, you would be able to do restrictions of that sort. And again, you would just hit OK, and then again, you've now got it scheduled, and there's a subscription, and it would always be there for you, and you would always be able to edit this subscription if you needed to. I'm not going to worry about that. In any instance that you wanted to look at your subscriptions, you always have the ability up here to say My Subscriptions up in the upper right-hand corner, and you would be able to see all the subscriptions that you have created and that are being worked on. And also the description of where they're going to. So just to recap, we were basically able to access the reporting services reports from choose a module, choose the reporting service reports, and you have the list of reports that are available to you. If you were a non-GP user, or even if you were outside of the GP system and you wanted to access the reports, you have a web page that you can come to in order to access your reports. If you wanted to make custom reports, you would be able to make custom reports, put them in these folders. Those reports would be available through this website, but also inside a GP for the custom reports. And again, if I wanted to set up a subscription, I would click on the report, and I would click on the name of the report, and I would start a subscription from the subscriptions and start a new subscription. But again, the method of this is the fact that you do have reports that can be sent out to Excel and PDF and also then emailed to outside non-GP users. Start from there, but I'm not doing it. The other piece that as we start getting more into technology and wanting to examine our data, we're using Excel dashboards and reports. The time that you would do Excel dashboards and reports is when you can create a dashboard, again, for non-GP users to be able to review the data in more graphical methods and have the ability to slice their data and get the graphical charts and graphs that they wish to use. The data is also refreshable because it is linked directly into the GP data, and it makes it accessible for non-GP users just to hit the refresh button on the connection and get live refresh data, and again, still staying in the dashboard view for yourself. So you're not having to log into GP and refresh the reports. They are live connections. So let's go look how the Excel dashboards are looking today. So back over here in the sales module, we're going to look at is that We have the Excel reports. They're located again right above the reporting service reports. We have the Excel reports. Again, the reports are available for other modules. We're concentrating on the sales module today. So if we come down and look at the predefined sales list that Microsoft has already provided to us, we're going to come down and look at one for just the sales line item information. And then all we have to do is double click on it and it will automatically launch us into Excel. We can bring the information in as a table and we can see how much information that Microsoft is on this data connection has provided to us, and it's a bit overwhelming, but we can give it a look-see. So you'll notice is that most of the data that you would have available to you in smartLists is even available to you here in Excel. And if you wanted to come in here and just deal with filtering of data and using raw data for information that you may want to compile in a different manner, you can. But for this today, we're going to show you how to use the pivot charts and such. So I'm going to open this again, but instead of just using the table data, I'm actually going to choose my pivot table report. I'm going to hit OK. So automatically we're coming up into pivot table, and I'm going to do one for some customers. I want to see the customers and the amount that they have purchased from us. So I can choose my customer name, and I'm going to drag and drop that into the rows. And then I'm going to look for extended price. And I'm going to drag that into my values. So right here I've already got my customers and they're already grouped. And again, I can come up here in my row labels and I can go ahead and make this easily readable by putting customers. Then what I can do is do right click and I can choose to filter, and I'm going to choose the top 10. So now I've taken all my customers and I know who my top 10 customers are. And if I wanted to, I can also sort from the largest to the smallest. So my top So my top producer is at the top, and then it comes down. And again, if I need to format, I can come over to Home, and I can do my comma, and I would be able to format it. And again, if we're doing dashboards, we want to start making this, pulling this away and creating little dashboards. So we have my top 10 customers. One thing about doing dashboards, we also want to have some controls put on it, so we can come over here to the Analyze button, and we can choose to insert a slicer. In this instance, we may want to choose our document type. So I can choose document type and I can say OK, and you'll notice as I now have a little slicer, and I can click on Invoices, and you'll notice my amounts change because I'm only dealing with invoices and not any other type of document. I'm going to come over here and copy this now, and let's go create another version of this. What we can do over here now is let's look at the items that we're having on these same sales orders or the sales invoices. And so I can right click, I can click on this and I want to remove the field. And I'm going to come over here and find item. And again, I'm going to remove that. I'm going to find quantity. I think quantity be more representative. And again, what we can do is right-click and we can choose to filter, and I only want to see the top 10. So we have this splicer, and what we can do is make sure that this splicer is actually controlling both of our pivot tables. By right-clicking on the splicer and hitting Report Connections, we can see that both of our pivot tables are being controlled by our splicer. So as we change this from maybe see how much returns that we've had versus invoices, our data will change with our filter. So we can also come in here and add an additional we're going to order another slicer, and we're going to put document date. I'm sorry, we're going to insert a timeline. What the timeline does is provides us a way that we can control them in, but at the same time put our what time range that we wish to analyze on our dashboard. Again, since we are using the data from the Fabricam company, we're going to be using that 2017. So we can use that time range, and our data would update accordingly. Again, for us, what we can do is come here, right-click, choose Report Connections, and we'll noticing that only one of our pivot tables being included. We can check mark the other pivot table so that this pivot table will also be updated. So when I choose to expand or change any of this data, then my numbers would change accordingly. So we can turn around and copy our data down here. Let's make another little So in this instance, we have our customers, but we may want to turn around and add a column to see a chart going across to by month what our customers are doing. So we can come back over here on this pivot table and add document date across the top. And so it's going to give our document dates. Again, we're being filtered by the document date up at the top, but we also have it by day. So we're going to want to group this. We're going to right-click and we're going to choose Group, and we're going to say Groups based upon months and years, and we're going to say OK. And then based upon our range, we have our January, February through May. And this is our information that we have here. And then what we can also do from this point is come in here and we can say to insert a chart, and we could insert a chart for this information, and we can click on that, and then we have a chart based upon our pivot table. Again, what we could do is come in here and choose our customer name. If we want to put a slicer on here for customer name, or we can actually just do a filter this method, we can come in here and then just choose Aaron Fitz, and then you'll notice is that my pivot table and my graph has updated just to Aaron Fitz. One thing I want to mention is as you're creating dashboards in Excel Live, don't forget too that you would want to come in here and remove your grid lines so that again it does not look like an Excel sheet. It looks more like a report. But also if you wanted to, don't forget you can come in here onto the items, for instance, and come over to home and come use the conditional formatting, and you can use data bars and such in order to provide you with some ability to see data of, again, this is not organized by sort, so you're getting a type of conditional formatting that's just showing you the percentage thereof. This is the greatest and this is the next. You can do this with payables data, you can do it with sales, you can do it with GL. Again, the possibilities are unlimited with the fact that we have data connections that are live, and any user could come in here just by clicking on data and refresh, and it would refresh the connections when you come into a worksheet that has already been previously saved. And the charts would update automatically. And I believe we are actually at the time that we can talk about Power BI.
Great, thanks so much, Rebecca. Rebecca, we do have a few questions for you. However, I am going to wait for those until after our second portion of the presentation. So stick around with us. Okay, so first of all, I'm going to send out a quick poll to everyone. That poll will show up on your screen momentarily. So everyone could fill out that quick poll.
Oh, organizers and panelists don't get to vote? How fun is that?
Okay. We're almost at 100%. We're going to close it off in just 1 second.
Now, I've got a feeling you would probably choose if you never heard of Power BI in my life, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what I was going to choose. But we'll learn something about it together today. Very good.
And we have our results.
All right, well then there's going to be a lot of fun. I'm ready to go, Michael, if you want to make me presenter.
Sounds good.
This is John Klebb. I'm very excited to be with you all today. Do you know how many people we have named Maggie on this call? I'm really impressed. It's not the most common name. Let's see. Are you offering me a chance to show my screen?
I am.
Maybe I am hiding it somewhere. All right, let's see. Show me my screen. There we go. Got it.
We do have a few questions coming in if this is recorded and if we'll be able to see this webinar afterwards. So yes, it is recorded, and we'll send that webinar out to everyone in a follow-up email.
So are we seeing a Power BI slide? Oh, my computer is blinking quite often. Michael, are you having any success?
I just see a black screen there. John, are you still with us? John, are you there? Okay, we have just small technical issues. So at this time, we'll have Rebecca answer some of those questions while he's getting everything set up. Rebecca, I'm going to go back to you. Are you still with us, Rebecca?
Yes, I am.
Perfect. Okay. So we did have a few questions. Can you pull project data through Management Reporter?
No. Project Management Reporter is only reading the GL information, so it's not necessarily reading the project accounting information. Depending on some of how your reports, what information you're needing, the best suggestion would be to look at getting some reporting services reports provided.
And obviously, I am so passionate about it, and I think that was
Okay. So what about unposted data? We have someone that's looking for suggestions on how to report on unposted data other than Management Reporter.
Unposted data can be reported if you're looking at just financial basis. Unposted data, of course, Management Reporter can do posted or unposted. But again, those are for your income statements. If you're looking at just data analysis and such, then you can look at smartLists. We'll always read work, open, and history data all at once. And also Excel reports can be tied into the work tables so that you can see your unposted data as it's going on. One of the typical reports is, say, for instance, open sales orders. You would need to be into your work table so that you have unposted data. But for financial purposes, your Management Reporter's doing that in smartList and such.
Okay, and then last question for you. How do we change the column titles in the SSRS aging report? I want current, 30, 60, 90, etc. instead of aging, budget 1, etc.
It's very doable. What you would have to do is there's ability to come in here and download the report, and you would have to download the report, open it up in Visual Studio, and change the column headers, and then come back in here and replace the report. It's doable, but there's a few steps to get that completed.
Okay, we think those are all the questions for you, Rebecca. Thanks so much. I think John has figured out his technical difficulties. He'll be coming on here with Power BI. John, I've just made you the presenter. John, are you with us? We cannot hear you or see anything on the screen. Okay, 1 second.
There we go. I should be back now, waiting for the present my screen.
Sorry about that. I saw 2 John Clubs in there.
Oh, yeah, maybe the old guy's still there. Actually, we're both old guys. Am I sharing my screen now, Michael?
I don't see it yet.
Well, I apologize to all of you for the technical difficulty. There is no reason.
There we go. Be good to go. We see the screen.
All right, good. So Power BI, we need a deck somewhere. Well, we don't really need a deck because most of what I'm going to do is show you things. But when is Power BI good for you? It's good when you want to do visual things. Now, the visual sense that you have is 70%, or your brain gives 70% of its capacity for the 5 senses to visual, which means the visual sense is more powerful than the other 4 senses you have, you know, taste, smell, feel, and all that sort of stuff, and sight, together. And so it's very powerful to present data, especially complex data, using visual tools, and that's what Power BI is all about. So it's not good for financial statements. It's not good for looking at your budget in a tabular model or tabular way. It is good for viewing data in a very visual way so you can catch subtleties. I'm going to show you something. If I click on Cortana, Windows 10, and I say show me revenue by year, by year, you will notice that it found a Power BI visual to share with me right on my Windows 10 computer. So this is the world of Microsoft these days, right? They're quite aligned with all the various products. So this happens to be Sikich historic revenue. If I go into Power BI, the service, and for those of you, the 34 or 40% of it, I've lost the poll now, but that said you hadn't seen Power BI before or heard of it before, you just go to powerbi.com, and it takes about 5 seconds to sign up, and it's free. It's a freemium product. There is a pro version which costs $10 a month or $9.99 a month to subscribe to, but we can get to that if we have time at the end. I'm going to sign into Power BI using my Office 365 account, which is what I have aligned with my Power BI, but this is still a free tool. I have a workspace I'm going to share with you. I had all this stuff ready to go before my computer rebooted. And we can ask that same question right inside of Power BI, the service, which is in the cloud. Show me revenue by year. Okay, so it brought up that same chart that Cortana brought up for me in Windows 10, but I can specify other things here, and I want it sorted so the last year is on our 2015 is on the far right. This is enabling you and your staff to have natural language query, self-service business intelligence. You just need to be careful at the questions you ask, because people ask questions in different ways and they get different answers. If I'm happy with this graphic, I can pin it to my dashboard, and now when I go back you'll see that not only do I have the Sikich logo, but I have a dashboard item, very similar, only slicker than what Rebecca was showing you, because Rebecca was working in Excel and I'm working in a tool that was designed specifically to do visualizations. What about if we said revenue by, no, how about employee count, employees by business unit as a pie chart. By the way, those of us who specialize in visualizations hate pie charts because it's hard to tell the difference in the size of the parts, so the bar chart suggested was much better. But people like to see pie charts, so now I'll pin a pie chart to my Power BI dashboard. I can resize it, make this smaller, plug it up here, and start building a dashboard. So as an example, I have a complete dashboard here that I built for Sikich, just to tell the story of Sikich's history and our revenue growth and all that sort of stuff. And here are the employees by business unit, and if I click on advisory, which is one of our business units, it changes all the other graphs. In the case of this employee by year and by business unit, I chose to have it filter the entire graph. And in the case of employees by year, I chose to allow it to show you the total employee count for Sikich, but then highlight only the area and give you tooltips, as that we had 635 employees at the end of 2015 and 95 of them worked in advisory. So Power BI allows you to bring data to life, and it also makes it very easy for you to connect. And I should say before I forget, although I am ERP system agnostic, these Power BI tiles can be surfaced directly in GP 2016 on your dashboard. And also, if those of you who have CRM dashboards or backgrounds, you can do the same in Microsoft Dynamics CRM. So here's an example of a GP Financials solution template, and we'll talk about those in a few moments, I hope. I ate up a bunch of my time by, oh, that's pretty, a lot of timeouts going across the screen. At any rate, I ate up a bunch of my time by having a technical issue. But this is a dashboard that's not populating for some reason. I hear my hard drive spinning rapidly on the computer, so I must be competing with something. There we go. And it shows things like monthly cash flow in a nice waterfall chart, or monthly AR balance. These are the changes in AR, so the total AR is 7 million. Year-over-year net sales. There's maybe an expense monitoring sheet that again comes out of GP that shows us expense against budget, and this is against the Fabricam demo data. So there's some funky things like last year's expenditures were 7,964, and this year's 145,000 because there really isn't any last year data. But you get the idea. I want to explain to you how all this comes to pass, and for that I need to open up the Visio that I had a few minutes ago. So there's something Microsoft's building. Actually, we're building the GP version for Microsoft that is called, let's see, view presentation mode, called a Power BI solution template. And this is basically the architecture for connecting GP data to Power BI. So it gives me a chance to talk about some of the elements. So Dynamics GP is in the back end. Whether you're hosting it in a cloud environment or whether you're running it on premise doesn't matter. We use a replication utility to pull out data out of Dynamics GP. In many cases it's SQL Server Integration Services, SSIS. Populate it in a SQL database, massage some data, create some views, and then make a tabular model, which requires an analysis server or Power BI desktop. Power BI desktop is also a free tool, and it's generally thought of as your authoring tool. Sorry, I'm missing an arrow here. All kinds of glitches today. Well, guess that's the way it goes. And from Power BI Desktop, you create those reports that we were just looking at. You publish them through a gateway to the Power BI service, and then they're available for anyone you want them to be available for. This solution template, this diagram, this entire diagram, is being provided to you from Microsoft, or will be provided in the coming weeks by Microsoft at absolutely no cost. So you'll be able to connect your GP data in a standard format, a standard way, to the front-end software. Let's take a quick look at the Power BI desktop tool so that you can get a sense of how this structure works and how you connect. You saw Rebecca a few minutes ago, or half hour ago at this point, connect Excel to GP and then make pivot tables, and that's really all that's going on here in Power BI desktop. It is pivot table on steroids, I suppose. It is, pivot table with real visualizations. I'm pulling up AdventureWorks. If those of you who are technical and know about SQL backends, AdventureWorks is the demo data that comes with SQL when you install it. But and this is a completed dashboard. In a class on this sort of thing, I'd show you how to build it. But today I just want to show you how the connection is made. And so when you connect to data, you're basically, the data source doesn't exist, sorry. You're basically connecting through what used to be known as Power Query in the Microsoft Excel world. In 2013 it was still called Power Query. In 2016, Excel 2016, it's simply called Data. But it's a connection tool, the same connection tool that Rebecca showed you that brings data into the system. So I'm looking at several tables. I'm looking at a customer table and all the fields. I'm looking at the internet sales table, which, if you will, is the table of all the data that has been captured in each transaction. And you notice that the list isn't very long. When Rebecca was demoing with the Excel data, there were tons and tons of fields that she was sifting through to get to the document type she was looking for. I have, in that query tool, limited the number of of columns that comes across to the ones that I need for the analysis. So that's one of the things you do in the back-end data tool. I have a period table for dates. I have a product table for all the products that are in the system, for road bikes, etc. And then, as part of the process, you connect the table. So Internet Sales is in the world of BI. It's what we call a fact table. It holds the measures, the numbers that we're going to slice and dice. In the case of what Rebecca showed you, it holds the revenue, it holds the quantities, it holds the things that you're going to count, add up, sum, average, whatever. And then the tables around it, this is called a star schema, are the dimension tables. So I want to be able to slice and dice customer names. So I want to be able to slice and dice my sales, my costs, my profit, my margin by customer, so I've connected it to my customer table. But that connection means I can also slice by whether they own a home or what their occupation is or anything we know about that customer. Same with promotions, so I can deal with names and types of promotions, and period is for my calendar. And products I can go by category. So you bring in data, you relate it to each other, and then you build your dashboards with drag and drop visualization tools. So we could go create a new dashboard if we want, but let's show you the one that exists. I made a tree map of product subcategory, and if I click on road bikes, I'm now looking at sales, SALIS, by week and year for each year, 2011, 2012, and 2013, based upon just road bikes, or just mountain bikes, or just touring bikes. So you see the power of this visual ability. If I want to see what they bought in North America, I simply click on the map. And now I can see that we sell more mountain bikes by percentage than we sell road bikes by percentage in America. Didn't even know we sold in Australia. Pretty cool. Who are these people that have a bachelor's degree? What do they buy and where do they live, and what kind of revenue was produced by week over those periods? High school, etc. All right, you with me so far? Just nod. Good. Excellent. So let's go back into the service for a moment, because I want to show you ways to get data. I could show some of this from the desktop, but when you go into the free solution, the Power BI service in the cloud, you sign up, that 5 seconds, it's 5 minutes before you can be working in it. So I simply clicked on Get Data, and it brought me to a screen of content pack libraries or import and connect to data. If I click Files, Local File, I can connect, as I did for the Sikich data and the AdventureWorks data, to any file I can find in my available directories. I can click to OneDrive, I can go to SharePoint team sites. If I were in the desktop version and I go to Get Data, I can connect to all sorts of things. Excel, JSON, Access databases, Azure SQL databases, Google Analytics, HANA databases from SAP. Well, you guys are GP people. Web Trends, I can pick Twilio. I can, the sky's the limit, which is beautiful because there may be outside data that you want to bring in to the system. So back to Get Data. We can also connect to databases, which are the SQL choices that we saw a moment ago. But then there's a large number, maybe 35 at this point, of services that have chosen to make connecting to the data they store on your behalf very easy to do. And one of those services we saw was Google Analytics. So if you use Google Analytics for your web traffic, you can immediately connect to Google Analytics and have dashboards to work from. You can connect to Marketo if that's something that you use to do your analysis as well. Microsoft CRM has also got content packs. These content packs are out of the box, and they set up everything for you: the reports, the dashboards, the views, the live tiles. Your organization can also, how am I doing on time? 2 minutes. Your organization can also publish their own content packs to be shared within the organization. Lastly, I want to point out then that you can download samples. And the samples are simply, in fact, I might have showed you one. Let's take a retail analysis sample. And this is Microsoft giving you an idea of where to start. Importing the data could take a little while. Actually, it only takes about a minute or two, maybe not even that long. Here it comes. There's something called Get Quick Insights, which you'll want to explore. It's machine learning being applied to the data, and it goes out and finds patterns and says these are outliers, etc. Kind of neat. So here's my retail analysis dashboard, set, ready to go, gives you ideas and where to go from there. All right, Michael, I'm sorry, I need to turn it back to you because I need to respect these folks' time. They were very patient to wait through my machine reboot.
Thanks so much, John. I appreciate it. We do have one question. I believe one question was already answered, but we have one question: is Power BI a Microsoft product? I can say that yes, Power BI is a Microsoft product. Microsoft is investing a lot into improving Power BI.
So, yes, and we were at Worldwide Partner Conference in July, which is a conference aimed at the partners, about 20,000 people. Actually, they sold out this year, 20,000 people present, and every single keynote presentation, they had a keynote every day of 4 for 2 hours each, and every single keynote presentation I saw, Power BI was the delivery tool for the information they were trying to convey. It was just incredible. This Power BI was released July of last year, July 2015. It was in a pre-release version for about a year before that, but it was pretty, when it was released last July, it was pretty basic and really not ready for prime time. By about October, November, December, it really hit going. They've got 200 million users of Power BI today and 50 million companies, and they're aiming for 2 billion users globally in the next 2 years. So they have, the team that is doing this has got so much energy, so much inertia. All I can say to all the other BI vendors out there is you've just been disrupted, because this one's not only free to start with, but if you need the pro version for multiple refreshes in a day or the size of the data you're trying to consume, it's only $120 a user per year. $9.99 a month. It is a simple subscription that you can sign up for. It actually goes through the O365 login, but you don't have to be an O365 subscriber to use it. It is going to be as ubiquitous as Excel, is my prediction, in the next 2 years. Sorry for the long answer to a simple question. Yes, it's
Thanks so much, John. Appreciate it. Thanks to Rebecca also. I'm going to wrap it up here. Thank you to everyone for joining. We will be sending out a follow-up email with a copy of this webinar recording. So if any questions arise, please feel free to reach out to us. We'll be happy to forward them to the appropriate person. Feel free to also share that recording with any colleagues or fellow users that may find this webinar interesting. Thanks again, and have a great rest of your day.
Yeehaw!